There are times in life when someone becomes so absorbed in something without realizing it. And tonight was one of those times for me. What had started as an ordinary evening quickly turned into a moment of no return. As I sipped my coffee in the kitchen, a notification from my phone caught my attention. It was a message from David. "I'm at the office again tonight. Work is really busy. I'll be home tomorrow night." Before I could even finish reading, a mix of warmth and frustration filled me. A lie I had grown accustomed to. Every time, a new excuse. But I knew the truth. There was no us anymore. David's heart and mind were with someone else. I placed my coffee mug on the counter with a dull thud. I felt suffocated by the kitchen, the house, and the marriage. I looked at myself in the mirror. At 43, I was still attractive, tall, with a slender frame, still curvy, and chestnut hair that waved slightly. Yet, at that moment, David's gaze wasn't on me. A burst of laughter from the living room broke my train of thought. Caleb and Sam, my stepson and his best friend, had been around a lot recently. Sam worked at his uncle's repair shop in the summers. He was skilled, a bit reckless, but undeniably charming, with his strong hands, broad shoulders, and effortless confidence. The kind of man women noticed. When I entered the living room, Caleb was lounging in the gaming chair, and Sam had settled into the couch. Both were focused on the screen, lost in their competitive play. For a moment, I observed Sam beside Caleb. His sun-kissed arms, the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, and his relaxed smile. He was young yet a man, handsome and unpredictable. I took a deep breath. "I'm going out," I said briefly. Caleb glanced up at me. "At this hour?" he asked. I shrugged. "Yes." As I walked out, I felt Sam's quick glance, but I pretended not to notice. Something stirred within me, something I hadn't felt in a long time. I started the car and drove towards the city center. The sky had darkened, and a mix of restlessness and freedom surged through me. I wasn't sure where I was headed, but stepping into a bar seemed like a good idea. I wanted to get lost in the crowd, to forget who I was for a while. The bar was dimly lit, soft music blending with the chatter and laughter around me. I sat at the bar and ordered a drink. As I took the first sip, I realized that for the first time in ages, I felt at ease, being here, alone, not caring about the night. It felt strange, but it was also freeing, letting something I had been suppressing come to the surface. After some time, I noticed men glancing my way. One leaned in, smiling, and tried to start a conversation. "Are you here alone?" he asked. I looked at him. He was attractive, well-dressed, confident, but there was no reaction within me. I smiled but turned away, uninterested. Another man tried to approach, but they were all the same, empty and unappealing. After a few hours at the bar, I stepped outside and headed to my car. The cool night air brushed against my skin. I got into the car and turned the key, but nothing happened. I tried again, still nothing. The car wouldn't start. Cursing, I pulled out my phone and called Caleb. "The car broke down," I said flatly. Caleb sounded sleepy. "Are you serious? Where are you?" I sent him my location. "Can you come pick me up?" I asked. I heard some movement in the background, then Sam's voice. "I got it, Caleb. Go back to sleep." I took a deep breath, knowing Sam was coming, and something inside me stirred again. I tried to suppress it as I waited in the car. The silence of the night surrounded me, but the real storm would start when Sam arrived. If you're hearing confessions like this for the first time and want to support us, join my channel, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Trust me, this story will be one of the most exciting ones for you. Minutes later, headlights appeared at the corner of the street. Sam got out of the car and tapped on my window. I rolled it down, and he raised an eyebrow. "I've never seen you like this before," he said with a slight smile. I was drunk, and hearing his teasing yet soft tone made me laugh involuntarily. "Is it that surprising?" I asked, tilting my head slightly. Sam shrugged a little. "But it's a nice change." After checking the car, he popped the hood open. "Just the battery terminals came loose. Looks like some troublemakers did this," he explained. "That's why it wouldn't start." I raised an eyebrow. "What about your car? You drove here, didn't you?" Sam smiled casually. "It's fine. You're drunk. I can't leave you like this. I'll pick it up tomorrow." We got in the car and drove off. After a few minutes of silence, I turned to him. "Sam, were you staying at our place? Did I ruin your night?" Sam gave a faint smile and kept his eyes on the road. "On the contrary, seeing you made me feel better. I couldn't sleep anyway." When we got home, Sam parked the car and turned to me. "Should I make some coffee?" I was tired, but his offer stirred something inside me. I nodded. "Yeah, that would be nice." As Sam prepared the coffee, he turned to me. "Elisa, why do you look so sad?" His question echoed in the quiet kitchen. I looked at him, seeing curiosity and sincerity in his eyes. He was genuinely asking how I felt. I sighed, still a little dizzy. Something inside me had started to unravel. "I don't know, Sam," I said softly. "Or maybe I do, but I don't want to say it." Sam placed the coffee cup on the counter, crossed his arms, and tilted his head slightly as he watched me. "Don't do this to yourself," he said gently. "It's obvious something's eating at you." I laughed bitterly. "It's not just one thing, Sam. It's a lot of things. Things that build up over time and eventually spill over. I guess tonight was the overflow." In that moment, it felt strange to want to tell him so much. But the understanding in his eyes, the warmth in his voice, urged me to speak. I took a deep breath, running my fingers through my hair. "David doesn't care anymore," I said. And as the words left my lips, a sense of relief washed over me. He doesn't care about me, this house, our marriage. He's been living in another world for a long time. And I feel like I'm just floating in the void. Sam nodded slightly, his eyes never leaving mine. "Is that why you went out tonight?" I looked away. I don't know. Maybe I just wanted to get lost, be somewhere where no one knew me, where nothing defined me. Sam remained silent for a moment before offering a small smile. "If you want to get lost, maybe what you really need is someone to find you." At that moment, I felt something inside me unravel, but I knew I had to suppress it. I shook my head and tried to stand, but as I lost my balance, Sam quickly reached out and grabbed my arm. Just then, the kitchen door opened and Caleb walked in, eyes heavy with sleep. His hair was messy, and he rubbed his eyes. "You're back," he said, yawning, then frowned as he looked at me. "Elisa, are you okay?" I smiled. "I'm fine, Caleb. Just a little drunk." Caleb furrowed his brows and glanced at Sam. But Sam, with his usual calm demeanor, simply gave a small smile. "It's okay, Caleb. I brought her home, and she'll be fine." After some rest, Caleb sighed and nodded. "All right then, Sam. Thanks. I'm going to bed. Good night. Good night, Sam replied. I waved to Caleb as he went to his room. When I heard the sound of his door locking, I couldn't help but smile. Caleb was always like that, keeping his space closed off, never letting anyone in. Once the house was silent again, Sam turned to me. "Should I take you to your room?" he asked, his voice low but firm, as I tried to stand up once more. I stumbled, and everything unfolded in an instant. I leaned against him, causing his coffee cup to tilt and spill hot liquid onto his shirt. "Ah, damn it," he muttered, tugging at his shirt. I winced, my eyes automatically drawn to his shirt soaked in coffee, the fabric sticking to his chest and revealing the firm muscles beneath. I knew I should look away, but I couldn't. Sam looked at me with a faint smile. "Guess I need to change." I swallowed hard. "Come on, there should be something in David's room. We can't go into Caleb's. He locked it, as usual," I said, and a small, unintentional smile crossed my lips. We walked toward the bedroom together, and as we went, Sam placed his hand gently on my back to steady me. But that touch, it made me feel too much. When we entered David's room, I softly turned on the light and opened the closet, pulling out a t-shirt. "You can wear this," I whispered. As Sam took the t-shirt, he leaned toward me slightly. His gaze locked on mine. The space between us was dangerously small. A moment of silence passed, but it was a silence filled with a storm. Sam's hand brushed lightly against my wrist. "Elisa," he said in a low voice. Hearing that, something inside me shattered, because I hadn't heard a voice like that from David in so long. For a long time, I hadn't allowed a man to look at me like that. But now, I was here and couldn't escape Sam's gaze. Sam averted his eyes and shook his head slightly. "It's nothing," he muttered, starting to remove his shirt. But I couldn't suppress the feeling stirring inside me as I watched his body. The strong muscles coming into view. I realized I was losing control. When Sam reached for the t-shirt to put it on, a voice inside me told me to stop him. And I listened to it. "Stop," I said, my voice soft but firm. Sam froze, holding the t-shirt against his chest, looking at me. "Why?" he asked, his voice holding a slight hesitation. Without breaking eye contact, I took a few steps closer, emboldened by the courage alcohol had given me. I broke free from the emotions I'd suppressed for so long. "At the bar tonight," I said, still holding his gaze, "many handsome, successful men tried to talk to me. They all tried to get my attention." Sam swallowed but didn't say anything. He just watched me. I took a deep breath and pushed forward. "But none of them affected me the way you do, Sam." My words hung in the air. The silence of the room mixed with the rhythm of our heartbeats. Sam's breathing had quickened, and his eyes flickered away. Yet they revealed the internal battle he was fighting. I held his gaze. "Tell me why." Sam parted his lips, as though he wanted to speak, but then closed them again. He looked as though he didn't know what to say, but the look in his eyes told me everything. Finally, he lowered his head slightly, and in a soft, steady voice he said, "Because you've been different to me from the very beginning, Elisa." Something inside me snapped. The distance between us had closed so much that I could feel his breath on my face. I didn't know where to place my hands. My mind was clouded, yet at the same time, I felt clearer than ever. Sam's hand gently touched my cheek. "We shouldn't do this," he said, but his voice wasn't convincing. I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth of his touch. "But you want to," I whispered. And in that moment, Sam let go of all his hesitation. He lowered his head, his lips drawing nearer to mine. And finally, unable to hold back the emotions that had been building inside me for years, he kissed me. His kiss started gentle, careful, but when I didn't pull away, it deepened. His hands slid to my waist, pulling me closer. When I placed my fingers on his chest, I could feel his heartbeat beneath his muscles. This moment, this feeling, everything about it should have been wrong, yet it felt so right. We kissed until we were breathless. But this was only the beginning. Sam's breath still lingered on my lips, the air between us charged. We had reached a point of no return. But then suddenly, Sam pulled back. His eyes locked on mine, as if questioning what he had just done. "Caleb," he whispered, his voice filled with concern, but also tinged with desire. I smiled, looking straight at him without blinking. "In his room," I said, my breath uneven. "The door is locked. If it opens, we'll hear it." Sam hesitated for a moment. Then another thought seemed to cross his mind. "David." I didn't look away as I smiled, shaking my head confidently. "He's not coming home tonight." As I said those words, I felt a strange lightness inside me, as though I had broken the chains of a long-standing captivity. Sam was staring at me, but now his eyes held no hesitation, only surrender. "We can lock the door too," I said, my voice low but clear in its invitation. Sam's pupils dilated, his breathing quickened. He paused for a moment, then slowly reached out and locked the door. The soft click echoed through the room, heightening the tension between us. When he turned back, his eyes landed on my dress, lying on the floor. He lifted his gaze in surprise, only to find me lying on the bed. His eyes slowly traveled over me, and I could feel him holding his breath. There was hesitation in his eyes, but also desire he was struggling to suppress. I didn't move. I just watched him. "What are you going to do, Sam?" I asked, my voice low and deliberate. At that moment, something inside Sam snapped. Without taking his eyes off me, he moved forward slow and steady, placing his knees on the mattress as he leaned closer to my face. His eyes remained locked on mine, the space between us nearly non-existent. Then, in a deep, hushed voice, he whispered, "You are the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life." His words carved themselves into my heart, spreading a warmth inside me that I hadn't felt in a long time. I wanted to say something, but the words got caught in my throat. Sam leaned in even closer, and in that moment, time seemed to stand still. When I least expected it, I found my hands on Sam's back. I was drunk, my senses dulled, but I was sober enough to feel the enormity of what was inside me. It felt better than I could have imagined. I missed it. And the strangest part was, I liked it more than I ever had before. It could have been the intoxication, or it could have been Sam, or it could have been his strong body. Sam was panting, looking excited, his face flushed. It went on, and at one point, my body contracted in waves. Despite all the alcohol, I made a loud sound, and Sam seemed agitated. I thought I should quiet down, so I took one hand off Sam's back and pressed it to my mouth. Sam closed his eyes. I felt his hands tighten, his whole body reacting. Finally, I said, "Don't be afraid, and don't stop." Sam let go completely, and I could feel it in his reactions, along with the warmth inside me. He lay beside me as we talked about the beauty of what we had just experienced. Exhaustion soon took over, and we both drifted to sleep. Time seemed to stop as the night went on. I stirred slightly and opened my eyes. In the dim light, I saw Sam sitting at the edge of the bed. He picked up his t-shirt from the floor and hesitated. I silently watched as he turned toward the door, and I could guess what was going through his mind. He was making sure there was no risk of being caught by Caleb or David. It was logical, but this wasn't just about logic. I smiled as Sam silently opened the door and stepped out. I whispered softly after him, "Sam, this wasn't just the alcohol." He paused, but didn't turn around. I continued, letting the certainty in my voice be clear. "I'm looking forward to the days ahead. Wait for me." Then the door closed, but I knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning.